Welcome to This Got Me Thinking, where clarity comes from conversation and the ideas that spark from it. I am your host, Chris LaFay, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Leo Falkenstein. And what's wonderful about Leo's story is it's one of kind of the more common tropes. You go to college and you want to head in this direction, but your parents think you should head in this direction. And so it was fantastic to look back with Leo, who's honestly been in business since he's been in college, and really figuring out what the whole purpose of the college experience was for him and how that tug and pull on what direction should I go actually helped him grow his business in the long run.
So it was when I was at University of Georgia, and I had just sort of really decided that I really liked creative and writing and all of that. And I told my dad that I was gonna drop out of business school because I wanted to do something creative. And he told me, Leo, I like the fact that you want to do something creative, but I think you should also do business school. And I'm like, no, 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 you're crazy. That's ridiculous. And a few months later, after I had dropped out of business school, I called my dad. I'm like, I think you're right. I'm looking at the people in my class, and I really think that if I had a business degree and a video slash media degree, I might really be able to differentiate myself. And that led me here.
So what pushed you over? What was the thing that actually like pushed you over the edge of actually switching majors?
What pushed me over the edge of switching majors was probably just wanting to do something that I had felt for a long time, but never like had the courage to pursue. Like I was always good at math. Good, and my dad was a business owner in insurance and risk management and such. So I'm like, oh, I've seen my dad be successful. I am good at math. I could probably have a successful business career as well. And but at the same time, there's always been part of me that, like in school, wanted to take video classes, wanted to take creative classes, but never did. And I think part of it was like, oh, I'm a hockey player. I'm tough. Hockey players are tough, not creative.
So what was it that you saw when you switched over into purely video and creative mode that you missed that made you decide to go more, the 50-50 route effectively?
I saw people asking questions about lighting, and I was thinking in my head, oh, how could I make money doing this? You know? And I'm like, people are just thinking totally different than me over here. They're learning a skill set, but I don't think they're learning a skill set that is how to profit as much as possible in this space, how to make revenue, how to start a business in this space. They were thinking about, the craft of making videos. And I was interested in that too. But again, just coming from a business world, again, having my dad who was a business owner, my grandfather who was CEOs of companies, I'm like, there's business here. My neighbor was a video producer who had his own business, who was making a lot of money doing that. So I'm like, I'm interested in creating video, but making money creating video. Not how do I light this subject like this to make it look the best.
How integral was the business degree in actually getting started? If I recall correctly, you didn't start Consume or even freelance stuff right after you graduated. It was a little while.
I started Consume when I was a student. I was 20 years old. And me and Michael looked at each other. We said, I don't think we're going to get internships this summer. I think we're going to try to start our business. But to answer your question, I I think it put me in the right mindset of business. I personally have never been like, I don't love school. School's not my thing. I am not good at sitting in a classroom being talked at. That's not how I learn. I learn from doing things. That said, there have been like so many times, especially early on, like when the conversations in class were still in my brain, I was like, oh, I remember the teacher said something about this. And it's just like, oh, okay, so this was a business lesson on accounting, or this was a business lesson on management, or this was a business lesson on, there was a whole class about Excel and spreadsheets, and I still use some of these functions that I learned back in school all the time. I don't think college is for class and education and tests. I think college is for surrounding yourself with people who want to be successful and who want to lean on each other and help each other and be part of your network and relationships. Like I think that when people say I want to start networking, you're thinking about it the wrong way. Networking starts in elementary school with being friends with people, staying in touch with them, with playing on sports teams with people and staying in touch with them, with asking people at family gatherings what they're doing for work. I think, and in college, you're just surrounding yourself with a lot of people who want to be successful. And if you can build good relationships, then you can help each other be successful.
How did you create the appropriate boundaries isn't the right word I'm looking for, guardrails around growing the company? Because I know that I drove my car completely off the road multiple times. And so I'm curious, without having like being a part of an agency and seeing how it's kind of ran from the inside for a little while and just immediately starting out on day one doing your own thing, how did you start putting up some guardrails to help keep you and Michael from driving off the road?
I think first and foremost, one of the most important things that we did was it's not like we tried to like hire somebody immediately. Not that we had the money for that anyway, but we really tried to learn the ins and outs of every part of the business before we kind of took that step. So we learned how to write, we learned how to shoot, we learned how to edit, we learned how to animate, we learned how to send invoices, we learned how to put pitch decks together, we learned how to go to networking events, we learned how to do cold outbound, we learned a little bit about inbound. We just tried to learn a little bit about everything. Sometimes we were not necessarily learning the right thing, but just try to increase both our business acumen, but also, our craft, which was creating videos and ultimately video marketing solutions for our clients. So I guess the long answer was just staying focused on the end goal, and the end goal was to get more clients, to charge more, to ultimately grow a team, but not try to do it so fast. Learn what you need to learn, practice it, make some mistakes, make your next project more expensive than the last, make your next video better than the last. And just by taking little baby steps and not overthinking it, you can grow and grow and grow. I would say that if I were to try to do this by myself without a business partner, especially Michael as a business partner, this wouldn't have worked. I think that I can only imagine. Well, I know how tough it is to start a business, and I can only imagine how lonely it is to try to do it by yourself, right? And also, probably even most importantly, to have someone that you're committed to, that each other are committed to, that we're going to work so hard to make this work. I think it's a lot easier for people to give up when you don't have that commitment. And when you're a couple of years out of college and you're paying yourself a little, you're paying yourself more than you were last year, but you're paying yourself a little, and it's a grind out there every day, and it's hard to improve your product, and it's hard to get business, and everything is hard. I think it's a lot easier to look at it and be like, okay, I've developed a skill set and now I'll go work over there because they'll pay me and I'll work normal hours and That that's kind of the other side of business ownership is either you work your ass off all the time, always, and try to grow and get better, or you go say, oh, that 40-hour a week job will pay me no matter what. And that seems kind of cool right now because I'm exhausted. But when you're committed to the other partner in the relationship, you guys can both see a future of success. I think that's keeps you grounded and keeps you want to keep moving forward.
I'm going to throw out a number, not that it's the right one, but what was that feeling when you finally crossed over the $100,000 a year mark? Just because it's kind of a signifying number, kind of like 1 million is a signifying number as well, where you kind of breathed and like took a second and was like, oh yes, okay, finally this happened.
It was probably about year three of Consume when the company got to about $100,000 in revenue. And that told me that there is a demand for our services. Yeah, when you take into account two people's salaries and expenses, $100,000 a year is not a lot of money at all. But it tells you that there is a demand for your services. And that feels good. That feels good. And then, you just keep growing a little by little. Next year at 200,000, then they're at 500,000, then your company's at $1 million. And you're like, okay, well, now I'm at $1 million. And I mean, so there's 10 times the demand for my services. Now, I also have a lot more expenses than I had, but it just is continually gratifying. Is that the right word? Encouraging, maybe? Let's say encouraging that you're able to continue to grow a business to a higher and higher revenue. And that means that if you manage your expenses right and you manage a lot of other things right, there's probably some money for you. Uh, so, um, I guess I would say that I don't know if I've ever breathed a sigh of relief. Like, well, that's not fair. Like, but what I like to think about is $1 million last year doesn't mean anything this year. It really doesn't. It's momentum to go off of, but you just got to do the same thing better next year if you want to grow. And I think that's how I've always looked at it is let's use last year and all the other years before as stepping stones so I can be better this year. But better doesn't happen naturally. Better happens by looking at yourself and looking at your business and making improvements and making changes. And that's hard. It's always hard.
When work has not been fun, what has been the mindset shift that has helped get you from, I'm not going to say from over here because again, like we said, you're here to over here. How do you go from slightly negative, we'll just call it slightly negative and not fun, to making that transition and building that momentum back towards fun?
I think it's just a series of small, quick wins. I think that you can look at something and be like, oh, I'm here and I need to be here. Or you can look at it and be like, oh, if I took this small step and this tall step and this small step and this tall step, I'm right there. And all of a sudden, all the small steps actually gain some momentum. And then you start going over here without trying as hard, right? So I think it's about the quick wins, finding things to get excited about, finding things to get your team excited about, and having just a series of quick wins that everyone can rally around.
It's this whole mixture of how do you combine together your passion, your love, what you want to be doing the rest of your life, but also with structure as well too. And I was actually talking to somebody else recently where talking about hobbies, and the one of the purposes of hobbies is to kind of break your mind out of the regular rhythms that you're in. You go to work, you live your personal life, you're doing those regular things, and your hobby is that outlet. and how powerful having that outlet is for your brain to make all these various different connections inside of it. And it really just promotes a lot healthier of a lifestyle overall. And how that happens is when you don't start monetizing that hobby, when you don't start putting the pressure on yourself to make this a part of how you make a livelihood for yourself, for your family. And so going back to Leo's story is going to college and completely pursuing that creative path, completely the passion, without the structural side of that, and going to business school and really making these connections across all areas of the university. And really, a lot of times you hear folks who go to school and kind of change majors and move things around where it's just a lot of noise, it's a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted effort. But in this particular case, actually viewing that time at college as a time to try new things and to meet new people and to build your network and to really understand how both your passion as well as solid structure can potentially lead to a fantastic business opportunity. And so the question I want to leave you with here today is, are you surrounding yourself with people that will make you think differently? His parents challenged his decision. A lot of parents, when when we've been to college or school or whatever that ends up being, challenge our decisions like that. It is what it is. So my question is, how are you surrounding yourself with people like that force you to think a little bit outside the box? That's what Leo got me thinking.